Now, as I say, we combine other things, the normal radio program, with our efforts to beat the blood cancers. And there is some news items out there that are somewhat interesting. The Ayatollah Khamenei and some of the others in Iran are now doubling down on the fact that Obama is lying and John Kerry is lying about the Iranian nuke deal. So we're going to touch on that as the program goes. Mrs. Clinton is going to announce her presidential run very quietly, we are told, on Sunday. And I think I've got a new slogan for Mrs. Clinton. No surprises this time. And, put a picture of Obama up there. No surprises this time, but there's going to be a surprise. Martin O'Malley is going to announce in late May, I'm told. And Elizabeth Warren is out now starting to sound critical of Mrs. Clinton. Now, as for Mrs. Clinton, she's going to announce her campaign on Twitter and Facebook, on social media. She's going to do it in a very low-key way. This is an effort to make Mrs. Clinton look hip. This is an effort to attract the millennials and the youths of America who are assumed to get all of their news and all of their information via Twitter on portable mobile devices rather than watching television. And one Democrat familiar with the campaign rollout said that Mrs. Clinton's announcement will feature visits, campaign stops and visits to people's homes in the early states and in the early days. I guess Mrs. Clinton really wants to find out what it's like to be dead broke. Well, she said she was dead broke. She and Bill were dead broke when they left the White House, had to steal some furniture from the residence. But that's part of it, and everybody's kind of buzzing here about the way she's going to roll this out with no big fanfare, no big announcement, no marching bands and balloons and this kind of thing. Do you know what Drudge is linked back to today? We talked about this. This is like 2 or 3 weeks ago. Drudge has relinked it. Of course, I printed it out. That piece that ran in Time magazine that claims Mrs. Clinton is at the perfect age to lead because she's postmenopausal. Now, this is a woman that wrote the story. Don't get mad at me. This is a woman who wrote the story, a doctor or some kind of, let me look at her name, Judith somebody. Well, I didn't put it in the stack. But it's a female researcher. I'll put it in this. Yeah, here it is. It's Dr. Julia Holland. Hillary, perfect age to be president. Forget politics. She's biologically primed to be a leader. This is one of the most sexist pieces. You know the point of this piece is? She's postmenopausal, therefore no mood swings. Those days are behind her. No more menstrual cycle problems. It's always been sexist men who've been joking over the years. You young people may not be aware of this, but I'll let you in on something. 20 years ago, 30 years ago, when the subject of a female president came up, all of these old, these backwards troglodyte guys, you could hear them running around making jokes. Do you really want to be living in a country where the president is on her period for a while? Can you imagine the Russians do something crazy during that week? Well, that's why this piece is. You remember those days, Mr. Snur. Now, there's not a guy in the world who would dare say that if he thought he was being overheard today. But I'm telling you, this is 20, 30 years ago. This kind of troglodyte men made jokes like that. Apparently, it's still viable because that's what this Time magazine piece does. That's not a concern with Mrs. Clinton. It's an attempt to counter the fact that she's too old. She could be 70. Is that right? 70 when she's elected? Or close to it? And so there are people, that's a little bit too old. Come on, do you really think? So they're trying to, no, Mrs. Clinton, ideal age, because she got all the potential female problems behind her. And then they put out a list of words. The Clinton campaign told the media, here are the things the words you cannot say, the words you can. Speaking of that, Hillary Clinton met privately with reporters ahead of her campaign launch. She's expected to announce her intentions on Sunday. Hillary Clinton's campaign team held an off-the-record dinner Thursday night in Washington for roughly 24 journalists and staff members at John Podesta's house, according to Michael Calderon of the Huffing and Puffington Post. He said the dinner signals that the Clinton team trying to engage with top infobabes and reporters in the days before her expected announcement. And it also suggests that the new campaign team's looking to change course from the toxic relationship with the press that plagued the 2008 race. Podesta, the campaign chairman, a seasoned cook. Oh, isn't this? Yeah, they actually mean that. He made pasta with walnut sauce for the dinner guests, which included reporters from the New York Times, the Washington Post, the Politico, the Wall Street Journal, the AP, and several major TV networks. A Huffing and Puffington Post reporter attended the dinner but did not discuss it. So, how about this? The first official meeting is private and off the record with hand-picked members of the press. You know what this is? This is Hillary laying down some markers with the media. This is Hillary setting the tone, dictating the terms of her coverage. And if you want to be on this inner circle, if you want to stay in this inner circle, you will keep your mouths shut. You will not question what we spoon feed you, including Podesta's pasta. You will not question it, and you'll report exactly what we say when we want it reported. Otherwise, you're out. That's what I think went on at this meeting. And there are all kinds of other stories of people commenting and opining on this. Some secret emails of the men who may run her campaign. In fact, one of these stories is from Mother Jones, which is a far-left publication. Robbie Mook just took the hardest job in politics, saving the Clintons from themselves. He's the new campaign manager, and Mother Jones kind of lets the bag out of the... Well, I don't know if they let the cat out of the bag, but toward the end of their story, they mention that he's the first openly gay campaign manager in American history. Nobody apparently knew that, so they had to put it in the story. So that's obviously something that they all consider to be important at the Clinton campaign. And then there's this at the Washington Examiner. Elizabeth Warren, challenges Hillary. I'd like to see her address all of these issues. She was on CBS this morning promoting her book, A Fighting Chance. What is this? Elizabeth Warren is hawking isn't she rich enough? Doesn't she have enough money? And by the way, she didn't write that book. What do you mean Elizabeth Warren has a book? She didn't do that. The publisher made that book possible. And whoever had to cut down the trees made that book possible. And wherever they got the ink, she couldn't have done that book without any of these people. She didn't do that book. Well, she's famous for saying people didn't start their own businesses. They didn't build it. Anyway, there's that.